Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Ready? Yes? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Cheryl, call the roll, please.
Joe Burden.
Here.
Dennis Gagnon. Peter Lewis. Here. Laura O'Connell. Here. Heidi Wendell. Here. Neil Zuckerman.
Here. All right, thank you, Cheryl, and welcome all here in virtual space to the April 2025 meeting of the Philipstown Planning Board. I want to thank my volunteers, friends. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say volunteers. You are being paid an enormous sum of money to sit here and provide support to this community. But in all jest, it is a volunteer activity for all intents and purposes, and I thank you for what you're all doing. I want to also thank one more time Neil Toman for his nearly decade of service on this planning board. His fingerprints will be long seen, and we appreciate how difficult it may be to replace him. That said, we need to replace him. And so if any of you here in the audience, in the sound of my voice, or on video land would like to join said planning board, the town board is accepting applications now. It's a process that will entail an understanding of your interest, expertise, and contributions, and frankly, your availability for the task at hand. So if you have an interest, please let me or directly to our town supervisor, John Van Tassel, or Deputy Supervisor Bob Flaherty, who also happens to be our representative from the town board to the planning board. So with that commercial announcement done, I would like the administrative announcement for approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'll make them.
Thank you, Peter. Second. Thank you, Joe. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. We have a correspondence from the Conservation Board related to the Automar property and its assessment of that property with a couple of notes. Do you want to add anything, Ron, about that note?
No, I have nothing to add, no.
Okay. Board members, any comments on it? Or questions related to the note from Andy? It effectively states that they see it as potentially too large and potentially having had, although these may have been remedied at this point, too much material in the creek, etc. I don't know, maybe you have any comments on it, Steve?
Well, the CB is entitled to, I think they got a courtesy referral on this, as a matter of fact. Was it courtesy, Ron, or was it required because of the creek?
Well, yeah, it was due to the creek proximity.
Okay, so they've made their comments. You're entitled to take them into consideration. They are not binding, but, you know, you may find them persuasive, you may not. That's just one more thing for you to take into consideration. They've done their job in making the comments.
And where are we with Automar, please, if you don't mind?
They appeared before you once, and then they have not come back before the board. They've been to the CB, and they have been to the ZBA. They were seeking to get relief to have the window service for the one of the tenants they had proposed. I think that was denied. So then we're still trying to resolve issues with the Conservation Board.
All right, so pending.
And
Yep.
the engineer did reach out for the May meeting dates and
Okay.
deadlines.
All right, great. All right, thank you for that. Any comments, any further comments on Automar at this point? No? All right, moving on. We have two referrals, one from the town of Fishkill related to Century Aggregates proposed site plan. I don't know if folks had a chance to review that and have any opinions related to it. This is another one where it is not within our jurisdiction, but as a courtesy, we received an opportunity to comment from the town of Fishkill, given our traffic and our environment have at least touching or at least neighborly. Any comments on that from anyone they want to share? We can certainly put those together in a memo if anyone has any meaningful remarks that can be shared. And if you don't have them verbally at this point, we certainly can collect that as a written comment and share that, and Steve can put that memo together if there's a weighted attention on it.
Actually, I can't. Ron would have to do that.
Okay. You want to just, are you, that's not your department?
I represent Fishkill.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, well, thank you very much. Congratulations on the breadth of your work. Okay. Any comments on it?
So we should just submit comments to Ron?
If you don't have any at this point, we can certainly collect them. I don't think we have a deadline per se. We're not judging on it. We're not opining on it in a formal way. It's a courtesy. We also don't have to opine. It's not our jurisdiction.
Well, but the Conservation Board said that the project would probably could impact our aquifer.
It could. That's potential. We don't have jurisdiction. I guess we can certainly say that. I'm just saying that it's not our, it's very hard for us to exert anything other than an opinion.
But also, the Conservation Board hasn't made any statement as of yet.
I don't know. Do you have any knowledge of that, Ron?
No, I don't.
We can certainly ask Andy. Could you put that as a,
Yeah,
just
they
send
were
him
discussing it at their
a,
meetings.
they were?
But yeah.
Okay. Were they gonna make a comment to the,
They were gonna, to you, if that's the way to do it, like through the planning board, I'm not sure.
since it's all informal, I don't know why they couldn't share that directly with Fishkill, or we could sign on to it. I mean, that's another thing.
That's what I think we should.
If you wanna
sign on
just-
to it.
Sign on to
I
that.
think
you
we
could-
should sign on to it, yeah.
If you could share with, just ask Andy what he's putting together, and if you just share it with us, we can all sign it together. I think we're all in favor of town aquifer being healthy, as I'm sure Fishkill is to some extent. They drink water too.
And I don't know how much time we have to do that either. I don't know, maybe Steve can't say. I saw somewhere that there were only 30 days from some date that even the 30 days might have even gone by now. I'm not sure. And I guess he can't say, but.
Why don't we just post haste? We'll talk. This document from Century Aggregate mentions the aquifer, so I feel like it's not an unknown topic. But I think let's just talk to Andy, find out where they are, and we'll happily jump on if it's amenable to the board.
Well, we did get a memo from,
Yes.
about it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But you're
From
thinking
the
that they're,
planning board of the town of Fishkill, and they're offering us to opine on it.
well, we also got a memo from Madeline Ray about Century Aggregates' proposed concrete batch plant to the Conservation Board members. So are we just waiting for something from the Conservation Board itself further?
I think what Cheryl just said was that they talked about it at the Conservation Board. And so if they're writing a note, which you can just ask, because you also manage the Conservation Board, you can just tell us and we can jump on that. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for us to author something that's generic, saying anything that affects the aquifer is bad for the community, so please be mindful of that.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, it doesn't have, I mean, it's just a note. It's like a,
There's a concrete plant right across the street from it.
yeah. Agreed. All right, so you'll let us know, Cheryl, via email what's going on. Secondly, there's a local law that's being proposed that the town board is asking our opinion on. It is a new 6-month moratorium on further oil storage businesses. Steve is the author of said law, and maybe Steve can provide a little bit of insight to the board members about that law.
Sure. This is just a courtesy referral, although the board's not required to comment on it if you don't wish to. It's a moratorium in regard to petroleum and gasoline storage. You may recall the Krasnicki application came before this board a number of months ago and proposed large petroleum storage tankers, close proximity to a creek. And as a result of that, the town board's been taking a look at the issue of gasoline and petroleum storage facilities of all kinds in the town of Fishkill. Everything from the large bins where they store them on a wholesale basis and have them trucked out, to gasoline stations, to hybrid facilities like the Krasnicki proposal initially had been, and then obviously it was changed from that. They formed a committee, a zoning update advisory committee, to look into the issue, and over the past several months, the committee's been researching the various issues that petroleum and gasoline storage present for the town of Philipstown. And they've finally provided everything except their final memo on it. They provided 2 prior memos regarding the issue of large storage facilities and gasoline stations, and they're prepared now to give their final memo in regard to the hybrid facilities. The problem is that the town's existing moratorium expires in May. So in order to enact the legislation, which the prior moratorium gave the town an opportunity to prepare, they need a short extension on that. A 6-month moratorium is proposed. There's an opportunity for additional extensions by resolution, but it's if they're needed, it'll probably only be 1. So that's what the local law is, and like I said, it's a courtesy referral. If you have strong feelings about allowing petroleum facilities to continue, now's the time to voice it. If you think the town board's on the right track, then you don't have to say anything.
Or if you don't have an opinion,
Exactly.
yeah. And board members have opinions on this extension of the local law, or the extension of the moratorium?
Simple opinion, I think it's a good idea.
Okay,
Me too.
okay. Thank you. All right. I don't think there's a need for a memo to say, keep it up. Unless
If you
there's
want
any,
to, be happy to send it over, but
I mean, I don't think that's a good use of your time or our time to say, keep doing what you're doing. Unless I'd ask Bob if the town board needs such a commentary from the planning board. Would that be of any value? Okay. Then keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. Okay, let's return to the public hearing for Kingsley. That was continued in the last meeting. Jason, unless you've got something new to say, I don't feel a need for you to say something. I think you send the memo. You can if you'd like to say some comments.
If I don't have to say any, I don't want to, if I don't have to say anything, I don't want to, I think
You don't enjoy public speaking?
I do.
You don't see a mic and you want to
I
just tell
do,
a story?
but the less the better, I think.
Okay. Well, unless you've got anything to add from that's new. I know you have the chart up there. So I don't see any, if you don't have any remarks, let me just open it up to the public. Does any members of the public want to speak on the Kingsley application? The Kingsley family was looking at each other, shaking their head, not sure what you want. You want to talk about, you're for the project or against it? That was a joke. I'm just joking. Just don't worry about it. You don't have to answer that question. That's good. That's good. Well, that's money well spent then. Okay, so anyone want to say anything? No? Going once? Going twice? Okay, motion to close the public hearing for Kingsley.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Peter. Second. Thank you, Laura. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. The hearing is closed. Okay. I think we're at the place, Ron, where it's time to prepare resolutions on this, unless there's other business.
I guess there's a few things just to touch on. At the original public hearing at the last month, questions were raised relative to propane tanks and I think it was the paving of the lot and the school bus
Correct.
location. The applicant's engineers responded to that. I know that the board, when they were out accomplishing a separate sidewalk recently, also visited the site to understand the issue of whether that lot should be paved or not.
I think we just happened to be driving by at the same time. We did not have a separate site visit.
No, that's
No,
right.
we did not.
Just an opportunity
We just sort of
to
drove by.
view it. I wonder if the board had come to any decision or consensus as to whether that lot should be paved. As I've described to you originally, the 2022 site plan does illustrate in details that there was to be paving on the lot. Certainly, the handicap access locations have to be paved, or provided with a hard surface. That's not yet done. So it's really a matter for the board to determine whether the paving of the lot should be accomplished as was originally indicated by the 2022 site plans.
So let's break those into two topics. The first one you mentioned was the response that we received on April 3rd, authored by Jason, I believe, that responded to some of the comments from that were mentioned at the last public hearing. And that is the memo you have in your hands that identifies effectively, some questions that were raised about physical appearance, size of the propane tanks, I guess, and too much equipment in the driveway as opinions shared by the public, as well as, yes, the topic of the bus, the school bus. So I don't know, Jason, do you want on behalf of your applicant just comment on those points? I know you're just basically going to summarize your memo, but maybe that's not a bad moment to do that.
Well, I mean, I don't believe, there's no this is not an ADA accessible structure, so there is no ADA parking proposed with this application, or with the amended, or the amended use, the amended site plan. The requirement for the surface of the parking area is that it be a durable surface with proper drainage. There's no requirement, although it was detailed on the original site plan for pavement. If that needs to be part of the amended site plan, I mean, it's gonna look less commercial. I don't know how that's a bad thing. I
think you just mushed two things together. The first thing I asked you was, we'll take the paving second. I asked you, could you just summarize your memo you wrote, which addressed some things that were raised by the public?
So the propane tanks are small residential sized propane tanks that are not in the front yard. They're at the rear of the property. They're off the back corner of the property, down the slope a little bit. I mean, you can see from the photos that they're pretty well hidden. They're not in the front yard. Also, what does that have?
Oh, do you want to speak? Come on up to the microphone.
Okay.
Would you like to speak? Okay.
And as far, and then the other, I guess the other issue was some of the traffic that was coming in and out of the site. Kingsley Tree Care is in fact currently using part of the garage for their, for his operation. He has a pickup truck and a van that go in and out of the site. He has a wood chipper and a trailer, a mini excavator on a trailer, all of which is stored in the garage. There's no outdoor storage, and I don't believe that was one of the comments, that there was any outdoor storage, but there is no outdoor storage of any tree care equipment. I think it was just the truck traffic was I don't know exactly what but I believe it was the truck traffic, which is going to be, there will be no commercial, whether it be Kingsley Tree Care or Forrest's business, or any other commercial business. There will be no commercial operations with this amended site plan. There will be no commercial truck traffic associated with this when the amended site plan is fully executed.
Okay. Board members' questions, and then we can go to Ron's comments.
On everything? parking, or just?
Whatever you want to ask. We're getting down to the short straws on this one, so.
Okay, so just a couple questions. So what was the original parking layout for when it was commercial? When it was a mix?
There was four of the nine required parking spaces were in the garage, and there were two on either side of the building. And then there were four off to the side.
Is that the four, so where that car is that where the four were?
No, that actually wasn't one of them.
Oh, I see.
So the parking would have been, on this side of the one, there was one space on this side of the building, one on the other side, and then there were four along the end here, and then there were four on the inside.
Okay. So where that other car is, so that.
That
yeah.
wasn't on that wasn't on the original site plan.
Okay.
That little parking area was not on the original site plan.
But it's there now.
It's there now. It was kind of used during construction, I believe, and it just kind of carried over.
Okay.
It's pretty well screened from the road. There's still, it's pretty well screened from the road. You really can't, even now.
Okay. So this is a question for, I guess, Steve or Ron. So this is a change to a multifamily use? Isn't there parking requirement for multifamily? What is that?
No, there is. He's got parking illustrated on his amended site plan.
Okay. So is that like, what, one per unit?
I think it's 1.5 per unit.
1.5 per dwelling unit.
Right.
The bedroom doesn't. So what they're gonna do with, they are planning on some, buffering along the front, some landscaping along the front of the building.
Let's finish the question. Let's just focus on the parking for now. The question was asked, how many spaces and where are they? So I think let's just do that question.
Yeah, I mean, they're, right now, the cars park along here, and then there was one space here, but they park right along the side here. I don't know if that's, the idea is that they park along the front, but there is this parking area here as well, so. But there is proposed landscaping and buffering along the front of because this is where the windows are.
So you have these 4 bays now, and you park inside the building. And when you make it into apartments, those bays aren't going to exist anymore.
Correct.
You couldn't park in front of the bays because you'd block the vehicles in them otherwise, but now that those are going to be walls, you can park in front.
Correct.
And you also have 4 on one side, is that correct?
Yes, there's plenty
And
of
1 on the other side as well.
Yeah, I mean, technically you could park 1,
That's-
2, 3, 5, 11 vehicles. I mean, they don't plan on,
That's plenty.
Right.
I'm sorry. Do we need to identify where the parking spaces are, or is this gaggle of parking?
we do.
He does have it shown on the
We
site
do.
plan.
We have 6 parking spaces, the required 6 parking spaces along the front of the building. That's where we have designated on the site
Okay,
plan.
fine. Okay, next question? Laura, did you have a second question?
No.
Okay. Other questions? Heidi?
Well, I feel like basically everything that was raised at the public hearing got addressed, or we saw it for ourselves, that, like what you're saying about the propane tanks, totally agree. Also, the trucks, to the extent that people were worried that the truck traffic would continue, it's not going to. So they should, as Neil had I think mentioned, it's just gonna be cars, so you would think the neighbors or whoever it was who made the comments would actually be happier now. But the only thing I didn't hear anything about was a school bus, but the school bus stop has not moved, right? So that,
So the school bus, this is where the bus stop is. That's where it is, that's where it was during the original
Yeah.
site plan, and that's where it
Okay.
is now. That was, the original comment was, But that's where it is. It's right, it stops right at the end of Mountain Brook, picks up the kids and goes. That's where it is, and that's where the comment was from the neighbors, is that it was right there, but that's where it is. That's where it always was.
And was found to be
Correct.
safe, yeah. Okay.
Okay, other questions? Peter, anything? Joe? No?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back, let's talk about the driveway question. So just to be clear, so Ron, in the original site plan that we approved, the applicant was required to pave, and it wasn't done?
Right.
Okay,
May I ask a question?
please, of course.
On Ron's memo, there is abbreviation of DWGS. Could I have that spelled out for me?
Drawings.
Drawings.
Oh, that's just drawings, just shorthand for drawings? Okay.
Okay, so just back to this question. So on the site plan that we approved, which we are now trying to amend, it was required to be paved, and that was not done?
Correct.
Okay, and the logic for the paving was?
I think it's very typically accomplished on site plans in developed areas of the town. I mean, if you were in a rural residential road, and you've seen them throughout the town, many times a highway will not require paving of the driveway. But typically on any, more suburban residentially developed area, paving is typically done on driveways or parking areas.
Okay. So now you're asking to not do the thing that we already
Correct.
asked you to do?
Well, I don't believe it ever came up. I don't.
Hold on. Ron just said that the site plan that you were trying to get amended has a requirement to pave. Is that not what Ron just said?
Yes.
So why are you arguing with that? He just, and so you,
But because I don't believe it was ever a point of contention that it be paved. I think it was just,
well, it can't be, it's binary. Either it says you have to be paved or not. It's not, it wasn't an opinion piece.
well, can we, then the amended site plan is going to incorporate an item for driveway. It can't be part of the amended site plan?
Well, the question is, are you asking the board to lower the standard from where that was already approved? There was a reason
Yes.
why it was paved. So can you just say that instead
Yes.
of making us think like we're crazy? It did say that, yes?
There-
And so you're asking for a lower
Yes.
level of effort against it,
Correct.
yes?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. So now, can you explain why you don't want to do the thing that you said you would do? Not you, but your applicant, your client.
Because it's gonna look better.
That's the argument? It's
That's-
gonna look better?
It's gonna look better.
All right,
It's
mean-
gonna look more rural.
I see the argument.
Okay.
Personally, unless it's causing silt to go in a creek or something, why not leave it? I mean, why pave it? I don't know.
The reason why you require paving is because you're now going to have 4, if not families, at least occupants in 4 apartments, all on that property. In the wintertime, it's gonna be difficult to plow if you have gravel there. If you have mud, it's gonna be slippery. If you have people walking across it, you have opportunity for accidents. It's the type of thing, if you have a multiple dwelling, I've never seen a multiple dwelling that didn't have a paved entranceway. I realize this is a small one, but it's a big ask to say, let us have item 4 as a driveway as opposed to a paved driveway on a multiple dwelling. And I think you're gonna need to have, well, I won't say you're going to need to have, it's up to the board, of course, but I think you should have a more comprehensive argument than you think it will look better.
Well, and it's not a requirement that it be, that, it's not a requirement of a site plan that it be paved.
No, but if the site plan says it has to be paved, then hey presto, it's a
And
requirement.
you did, whether you, I don't remember if you were involved last, oh, you were.
Yeah.
It was agreed to, and I don't like, and I suspect my colleagues don't like when applicants don't abide by the thing that's in the site plan, and that was in the site plan.
It was on the original site plan.
It is in the site plan, the thing we approved, the thing I signed. Okay,
Correct.
so before we have a violation on it that we have to pass over to
Well,
Greg.
yeah, we don't want that.
No, we don't, we do not want that. We all want to be good boys and girls. So let's just hear from other board members about this question.
Yeah, he's got a question about the paving. Will it bring up, Ron specifically, will it bring up any drainage issues? Will they have to put in dry wells for that, or is it?
Nothing significant at all. It is adjacent to Clove Creek, recognized, and many of the board has been there to see it. But it's a dead flat site. There's not gonna be significant issues that's gonna impact the town roadway or adjacent properties.
Okay.
Okay, others? Any comments?
Well, this, item 4 is pretty much impermeable too. Certainly is in front of my road, my house. So, the question of runoff into the creek is gonna be, whether it's paved or not. But I think that Steve has a good point in terms of its, you know, suffering the winter, you know, blows. And maybe we should stick with what we have.
Laura?
Well, I mean, I would just say that if you pave it, you're gonna also line it, so you'll know where the parking is, right? And so, like, if there's any concern that there's going to be too many parking spots, you can identify that in the parking plan.
I agree with you. I think it creates order, and order helps with neighbors, and order helps with the perception, which I did not feel when I visited, but I understood from the public hearing, there was a perception that was, the quotes, in fact, you wrote in here were certainly ones we heard from the gentleman who came. I did not agree with him when I saw it, nor did when we heard one of your tenants came out and he said some very nice things, which is always nice to hear. My opinion on this one is we stick with what has already been approved, and I do think that the volume of traffic that could be there, I shouldn't say, it's not a great volume, but it's not a person. So I'm supportive of not making things retracting from a place where we've already created a standard. Do we need a vote on that in particular, Ron? I'm sorry, Steve?
Well, it's
Apologies.
going to depend on what the site plan shows. If the site plan shows that it's got paving on it, then you can vote on it right now. If it doesn't, then you have to include that as a condition, which Ron would do in your approval resolution.
Yep.
Can we propose tar and chip, oil and chip surface, as opposed to just the straight super pave? Or can it be?
Ron, on this topic?
Yeah, no, that's an acceptable surface for my way of thinking. As I said, the original site plan illustrated typical asphalt paving, but item and chip, or stone and chip is acceptable.
Well, I agree with Ron that, and I don't mean to play engineer here, please don't take this the wrong way, but from a durability standpoint, certainly that is, but do you plan on lining and designating these spaces?
They can be designated with wheel blocks.
Wheel blocks.
The concrete wheel stops.
Okay. And you're going to assign particular spaces to particular apartments?
Correct. They can be identified with paint on the block,
All right.
on the stop.
That should probably be either a condition or a note on the plan, because and this is why I'm trying not to play engineer here, but let's say that you have one apartment and they have 4 guests over, and they all drive in, and if the spaces aren't designated and reserved, they're gonna park there. And then when your other tenants come back, where are they gonna park? They may park on the road. They may park in the lot in spots where it could be blocked. I know you have plenty of parking, I get that. But if you designate the spots and you assign them to apartments, you're gonna save yourself, you get 2 spots, and these 2 spots are reserved for you. If there's other spots, great, other people can use them, but the tenant comes back and he knows he's got a spot for himself or herself and his or her guest or his or her significant other who's staying there. So that's why I think paving and lining and designating is a better way to go on this.
How does Ian feel about that? The oil and chip? I mean, is that gonna be? But you can come up. Well, maybe, we'll go with the oil and chip. With the wheel stops and the.
I think, just to be clear, why I'm interested in this topic is twofold. One, I don't like the idea of something being in a site plan and not being done because they just chose not to do it. That is not the way things are done. That's the whole reason we're sitting here. It's not pick what you want to do. Secondly, having an organized multifamily dwelling requires organizing it. Having organized parking, and I like the wheel stop, all those things are appropriate. Whether it's 4 units or 10 units or 20 units, it should be organized. These are not radical concepts this board is suggesting. Okay, good. So, Ron, if you can work with Jason to identify exactly the specifics, and we can get that into the site plan, please. Okay, next step?
You could authorize preparation of an approval resolution for the next meeting.
Okay. I see no reason to delay that then, as long as we have agreement on that topic. You have a motion to authorize Ron to prepare approval resolutions, please. Thank you, Laura. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Heidi. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Jason. Okay. Okay, KPB Properties.
We have the little toggle,
What?
the toggle so I can put my computer up on your monitor.
I think you're I'm not in the AV club.
You're not in the AV club?
I think that's the boss. You really like that one, Ron.
I was in AV in junior high. I remember that.
That's funny.
It touched my heart there.
Aw, you had a reel-to-reel then?
There you go.
I love it, I love it. It's funny, it's funny. Your life's work even when you were in junior high, eh? All right.
AV club.
Hello.
Hello,
How are you, Margaret? All right, floor is yours.
Margaret McManus with Beatty and Watson for the applicant. We had closed the public hearing last time, but you had asked me to prepare 2 presentation boards. One. Oh, sorry. One was to try and illustrate what the driveway would look like from Route 9, because it has the wall. So this is a render which shows the driveway and a wall, and it's hard to see because it's very dark, so I made a lighter one so that you can see that the walls, at the top of the walls, meld into the existing grade, so there's not a drop off there, but there's the face of the wall is within the driveway. So the driveway will come up and you'll have a wall on either side.
Can you try your other one, please?
Sure.
This is what I'm getting confused. How are those 2 things related? I don't, oh, you're saying it's this thing up to the far, the top of the, okay, yeah, thank you.
This
Okay.
is the driveway
Yes,
here.
got it. I was looking for the Garrison garage, which is why I
Which is here,
Yes, I guess why I get lost my orientation. Okay, I got it.
and this is the new proposed
I see,
building with the
okay.
gravel
So
parking.
it's gonna be a cut, you're gonna create effectively some sort of, you're gonna raise it and then cut through it, is what it looks like.
We're cutting through it, we're not raising anything, it's already existing at that elevation, we're cutting through in order to keep the elevation of the driveway down at 14%, we need to cut into it.
Because of the steep slope as it is right now.
Yeah,
Got it, okay. Okay.
okay, so then the other item was, sorry. This is not the right picture. You'll have to look at this one.
Okay.
So we, as we did from Route 9, we took we had to actually go out and take a picture looking from Old West Point Road toward the site, and we superimposed the new proposed fence and showing the building, and then there's trees, which it's hard to see the dark trees against the dark building. But so when you're coming down West Point Road, you won't see into the site. You won't see the parking area. You'll see part of the building, but it's the upper part of the building.
Okay, good, thank you. Other questions? Or anything else you want to share, Margaret?
No, those were the two items that you had asked for.
Folks want to ask any questions?
Well, I was wondering if, and I apologize if I missed something in the materials, but did you see that this person, Dan Bailey, submitted a letter?
Yes.
I was wondering if you have any thoughts about any of his,
Well,
anything he said in the letter, just
so
briefly.
one, he had suggested that we put a guide rail.
Right,
There is, significant distance between the parking and the wall. We can put a guide rail there, but there will now be trees and there are wheel stops. So,
unnecessary.
I don't really think that the guide rail is necessary, and also with the trees, I don't think putting a fence there is necessary. It would be, along this edge is where he's saying, because the Garrison is, the garage is here, and obviously we wouldn't want, if there are but there are cars parked there now, and I don't think he has any complaints. So with putting the screening, it would certainly, I actually think that it's above the garage. So,
The illustration that you have, what size trees are you representing on that plan?
these were like 4 feet, 5 feet high, like they're not the filled in ones. I did these a little bit bigger, but also it's a limited, the kind of tree that I can find online to use as a three-dimensional object.
So what's the height that you're proposing then on, what's the site plan specify for the
The site
planning
plan specifies that they're giant arborvitae, so eventually they will be like 50 feet tall, and I think we propose the 6 feet high ones.
6 feet at planning?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're still gonna have the, maybe there's passenger cars there that are parking at present, but you're proposing,
there's no-
commercial activity, right?
Right. but
Construction vehicles.
The building, all of the vehicles will be parked in the building
Okay.
overnight, so I don't really see that there is a need for another fence and another guide rail, considering that we're putting the screening in the trees and there's enough distance between the wall and the wheel stops.
All right, we're just trying to understand the issue of whether there'll be any commercial activity during the day. Overnight parking will be in the building, understood.
Right, so the use of the building is for a landscape company. They come in the morning, they get their trucks, they go out to a site, they come back at the end of the day, put their equipment away, they will now put their trucks in the garage and close up for the end of the day. Now, we do know that they do plowing in the winter, so occasionally there are the nights when there may be activity on site for the plowing activities, but normally there's no activity at night.
I'm just trying to get some understanding to the issue of those commercial activities and whether there should be a fence along the frontage or along the Route 9 area, just to preclude views into the site that might be where you're storing plow blades or
There's
equipment
no
during the day.
There's no outdoor storage. There's no outdoor storage proposed.
Okay.
Sure.
Well,
put a fence.
just what,
I'd rather, it's cheaper for me to put a fence, that's not working anyway. So, you want me to put a fence, I'll put a fence around the whole property, I'm fine with that. Seriously, I'd rather have a fence, it's better for me, better cameras I could put in there and stuff
well,
like
look,
that.
one of the
I'm
requirement,
not putting both, trees and fence.
Now, the board will make that decision, so,
Oh,
right. I just want to make sure the board understands the potential impacts of any visual activity you'll be accomplishing on site.
so Ron, just for the applicant's sake, could you explain the requirement in the zoning in, was it chapter 1, section 165, something like that? I can't remember the one on screening, but I believe it says, as long as it's not a retail business, should be screened to the greatest extent practicable.
Right, right. And questions have been raised at the prior public hearing, more so from old West Point Road West, but just a question so you
Where
understand.
there is a fence proposed,
Right.
yeah.
No, I just wanted the board to understand the issue of what the view is from Route 9 and relative visibility for your activities on site.
The Garrison garage people.
No, my cousin lives there. It's not a problem, and the lights go over the top of the building. The top of the building.
The lights go over the top of the
Yeah,
building, they don't go into the back of the
Because
building.
there's a 2-foot wall there.
You guys the microphone is not for here, it's for all the kids watching at home, so you're gonna have to
Oh,
stop
it's
doing
not-
the tag team thing and just,
Oh, it works. There's a 2-foot wall there now, and regardless, when the lights are over that wall, they're over the top of that building.
Thank you.
okay, other board members, any sorry, go Peter first, then Laura.
I also apologize if I missed something or forgot something, but we had a question from the resident to the south, along this line here.
Yes.
What did we
satisfied
finally
all of her
decide to do
comments.
with
We
that?
satisfied all of her comments at the last meeting.
Thank you.
Laura?
And those are gonna be conditions in the site plan, right? Yeah, great.
So it's probably in the site plan and I didn't see it. What is the elevation of that cut at the highest point?
It's about 9 feet at the highest point.
And what is the solution that you addressed with the neighbor on that, so along that line of what Peter was just talking about?
She had asked for additional screening and higher plants, and we did that, and we extended the fence up the hill.
Okay, so there's a fence that runs along,
Yes, there's a fence. I did not show it in here because
That's fine.
I'm
Just
learning,
'cause I
I'm
don't
learning how to
remember,
do this. But I didn't bring the
just
site
use your
plan.
cursor on the thing
Yeah. So there, along this line, which is the property line between the,
okay,
there is a fence now. It's going to be taken down and replaced with a new fence.
Okay.
And it will be extended longer.
got it.
Okay, other board members' questions? Heidi?
There were a few other things in the letter that were raised by this person who wrote, Dan Bailey, who wrote the letter. One was about the, whether rainwater would collect. I know you've addressed this, you've mentioned before that there's gonna be, and I think Joe had asked a question, maybe at our last meeting, about how the water will be collected. Was there anything, I mean, are you still satisfied the drainage is gonna be sufficient, that there's not gonna be a stream of water coming down onto Route 9?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a negative grade between Route 9 and the driveway, so it goes down before it goes up, and everything is directed to the south, so it will run along, off of the road, but down, because the way that the way the topography is it runs south and it runs off the road, so that drainage exists in that direction, and it will continue to go in that direction.
Okay.
Other questions?
Just had a question as well from Dan Bailey here. He brings up the well, the yield of the well.
That's under the health department's purview.
Oh, okay, right,
We
okay.
can still go ahead and ask if you want to ask the question. What's your question?
Whether there's enough yield from the well to provide enough water for commercial and the residential properties.
there is enough yield from the well to provide what's necessary because they are not going to be washing trucks on site.
Okay.
It's only for the office, so it's very minimal use within the building.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Ron, where do you think we stand?
The board's addressed all administrative, procedural requirements of the code. You're now, I think, at a point with the closure of the public hearing to seek a resolution be prepared.
All right, any other questions that would prevent us from asking Ron directing Ron to prepare resolutions? Okay, so can I have a motion to direct Ron to prepare approval resolutions, please? Thank you, Peter. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Joe. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, abstention, motion passes. Ron, we will see you next month for those documents. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank
Okay. Fergus and Chen. Jason's back.
Yeah, I mean, Ron has the resolution, he's going to prepare a resolution, I don't.
Ron, you have the resolution prepared?
Yeah, they were issued to the board.
As a reminder, I can't remember who won. I think Joe and Peter and I went this lovely house that is no longer to exist, but a lovely property. And we directed Ron to prepare said resolution. We have it here in front of me. And so I'm going to ask for a motion to approve this resolution. May I have a motion? Thank you, Peter. Second. Thank you, Heidi. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes, and I'll put my here, John Hancock, on this very document, just to add a flourish to the meeting. Congratulations, Jason. Okay. Jaymark, same thing. Resolution was, we directed Ron, we have a resolution. This is for basically the cupola, or whatever it's described as. What's that called, that awning? Or-
I couldn't tell you.
What's that?
I couldn't tell you what they call it.
Okay, well, the thing that stops you from getting wet upon when you walk in the building. I have it in front of me. We have an approval resolution. May I have a motion to accept said resolution, have me sign it. Thank you. Second, first and second from Heidi and Laura. All in favor, any comments or questions on this approval resolution? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, abstention, motion passes, and I shall also sign it with my green inked pen. Hopefully my lawyer says that's okay. Okay, just happen to have a green pen, I don't know why. That's a blue one. And then finally, the Gatekeepers. We had a site visit, 2 weekends ago? Yeah? What, 2 weekends ago? Was it last week? It wasn't last weekend, right? I don't know what. Okay, well, anyway, it was lovely. Thank you for the coffee. We're easily swayed.
Just give us a donut.
So I'll just take this down and.
Yeah, it's fine. You just gave us coffee, and I think I did have a donut. I felt quite bad about myself, but was happy nonetheless. Anyway, board members, you want to? I mean, Ron, did you create You created a memo describing our site visit.
That's
Do you
right,
want to
yeah.
summarize the key observations, please?
Yeah, there's not a lot of activity being proposed. They don't have an actual tenant. They've identified areas of the site where they're proposing to do material storage for the proposed activity, areas for the construction equipment to be parked, and areas further back on the site for just employee parking. The board comments during the site walk were to suggest that the storage bins and the construction parking area be placed further back on the site so it's less obtrusive from the Route 9 corridor, and also that landscaping be considered along the southerly property line because the adjacent property is residentially developed. But there were a few other comments of concern.
Okay. Board members, do you want to recall any comments from the board or the site visit that they're worth mentioning? Peter?
Just that question about that same one that I think you answered, and I think it's probably the buffers, although there's no key here. The green is kind of the buffer.
Well, we actually updated, I just got this out today, to you guys. Not sure if that's, so if you guys look at, we have actually 2 buffers. We just became aware also to add the stream that runs along Old Albany Post Road. So any of the blue that runs along here, as well as the back here would be the 100-foot buffers from the wetland, as well as the stream buffer. We also did move, as you guys requested, the concrete bins and brought those next to the vehicle parking. And then we also originally had more of a sweeping area where the tenant parking would be, but I don't know if you guys recall, there was kind of like, you could have made a right and gone directly to that section. We're going to use that as the proposed entrance to tenant parking. Try to stay completely away from the back wetlands 100%. To give you an update, we did go in front of the Conservation Board as well. They're planning a site visit. We're also having them flag, come out to verify everything on their end. No really further comments that came out of them at that point.
Any other board members with comments from the site visit? I have none. Public hearing, thoughts on the public hearing, folks?
Next week, or next meeting.
Given while it's a relatively minor usage, it's a relatively public viewing area, it's on a major road, it's basically when you come down off of East Mountain Road North, that's a fairly busy road, so I think a public hearing is appropriate for the setting. It's certainly common with what we do.
The public hearing is mandatory because you
Well, there you go, then.
previously classified it as a major
Well,
project.
there you go. For purposes of recollection, it was a major project, why?
Because of the extent of site disturbance that will result.
Fine. All right, well, then the public hearing will take place as long as you're available. You may not be available, of course, but that's okay. That'd be a good reason not to be at the public hearing. And yeah. So what's your schedule for the next board meeting, please? I don't think there'll be throngs personally, but don't hold me to
We've
it.
been getting tempered with seeing everything over the last month, and we're in like a hot spot right now, so yeah, we'll see.
Understood. Okay. That's it on this topic, unless anyone has any other business on gatekeepers.
One other thing to add, and I hate to dwell on technicalities, but your EAF still has errors and incomplete sections in it. If you like, I could send you an email outlining what they are, if you
Yeah.
want to take a crack at it yourself.
If you wouldn't mind,
right.
I'd appreciate that. Yep.
Sure.
Thank you, Steve. That's helpful.
It's not scheduled yet, because we're waiting for the
So,
flagging.
yeah, Max, or the natural resource officer was coming out to start the flagging. He did start already. As soon as I think he's completing this weekend, then we could bring them in.
Okay. Our advisors are in public negotiation. What's going on, guys? We good?
It's not about how to handle the EAF. I think what we're going to do is I'll send my comments to Ron, and then he'll give him a comment memo
Right.
with his comments as well.
Okay, very helpful. Is there anything in particular that's particularly notable that would be of a topic at the public hearing that they need
And
to?
it's all technical things and boxes that were, I think obviously, I mean, we'll find out, but I mean, checked in error. It's
Okay.
very
Just trying to
straightforward.
save you a hassle of someone at the public hearing saying something. Okay, fine. Any other comments on gatekeepers? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much. Any new business for the board tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Well, we got a letter from Susan Onspach about public hearings, and I was wondering if we're going to put, I didn't see it listed amongst the correspondence, but maybe it's going to be for next time, or?
I've asked Steve to opine as to that comment.
I'm sorry, Neil, I didn't hear what Heidi said. What-
That's all I was asking.
We received a letter from a member of the public asking us to effectively, permanently keep public hearings open into 2 meetings under the expectation that someone may want to comment after the board has commented, after the public has commented. I'm sorry?
Not 2 meetings, at the same meeting.
What? Go, you should go to.
Why don't you take the mic and tell us, because you're the author? Okay, well, if you want to restate your argument.
Okay, I don't want to keep anybody here later
That's fine.
than you already are.
It's perfectly fine. Go ahead.
My name's Susan Ansbach, and I have the privilege of living in this wonderful community and attending meetings where there's so many active volunteers that make me very proud to.
We're paid, Susan.
thank
Come
you.
on, don't.
I don't think enough to probably pay the mortgage. So in any event, all I'm suggesting, I've been in a number of public hearings, and what happens, the public is invited to speak, and they do speak, and then the hearing is closed, and the board speaks, and the applicant speak, and there's a lot of discussion sometimes about what public hearing statements have been made, and after the board's finished and the applicant's finished, the hearing's been closed, so there's no opportunity for the public that's listening to the give and take to comment or respond. And sometimes there's nothing to say, but often there's follow-up, and I'm thinking it would not delay a public hearing to another meeting. I'm just suggesting that rather than ask for a motion to close after the public has spoken, wait till the board members ask their questions. The applicant often responds to those questions, be they from the public or the board, and then once everybody has aired their thoughts and heard what's said, then close the public hearing. I certainly don't think you should hold it open for another meeting. I'm just suggesting after all the comments might be a better time to close it, and I don't know if there's any rules that preclude that. It would seem to me that that's something the board could consent to do, and I don't know of any rule that would preclude it.
Thank you for clarifying. I took your email, I forwarded it to Steve, and asked him to opine for the board.
That's fine. I
So,
just wanted to clarify, I'm not
No, it's very
suggesting
helpful.
that the
Thank you.
meeting stay open or the hearing stay open for another meeting.
Very helpful.
It's just sometimes frustrating, and you often accommodate actually the public. You've closed the meeting, the people have spoken on the board, the applicant has spoken, and there are a few of us in the audience go, wait a minute, that raises another issue, and you have accommodated us, but I just thought procedurally it might be better if it just leave it open till everybody's spoken. So
Thank you.
something for your consideration, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thoughtful remark, and we will take a look at it. I'll have Steve opine for the board. Thank you, Susan.
You have the ability to close the public hearing and take written comment for another couple of weeks. Right?
Of course.
As we just did a few minutes ago, we actually, I think 3 times this meeting, we read letters that were sent by the gentleman. The gentleman who sat in front of you had spoken at a public hearing and then sent us a letter, and then I believe Heidi then read, and Joe both read remarks from that letter back to the applicant. So anyway, thank you very much, Susan. Other new business? Anyone? All right, hearing none, motion to adjourn. Thank you, Laura. Second. Thank you, Peter. All in favor, say aye. Thank you, and good night out there.